This is what I love so much about fishing. I get to come to North Wales. I have never been here in my life. Thanks to some very, very kind people, I get to come and fish this breathtaking coastline. Ground I've never seen, I've never fished. To me, it screams soft plastics. Yeah, I'm gonna get a jig head on. I'm gonna get that V2 Sandeel weedless, the heavy one. I've got a strong crosswind. I'm gonna try and cope with these waves, but this is why fishing is so cool, because you can get to experience brand new places you've never seen and try and hook up. This is my first ever cast in North Wales. I've obviously been told roughly where to target, but I like these waves breaking here. I really like the look of this. You can see it kind of drops off into what I believe is a pretty heavy boulder field. I'm just going to move to that rock there just to get a better angle, because I want to get into the waves, but I've got a strong crosswind. Oh, that ground is rough. That ground is really rough. I've got the larger weedless V2 Sandeel, and I'm letting it hit the bottom, and then I'm basically bumping the bottom. I'm trying to work along the boulder field. Looks like at the big sort of kelp ledge there, so I'm going to start doing that. Instead of whacking it out straight retrieving, I'm going to search that the bottom bit of ground first, and then work my way up from there. When you've got that crosswind, you've got to manage that bow in your line all the time. Just I can feel it now, you see. There we go. See the rod tip bouncing? That's my lure bouncing on the bottom. I've gone for the weedless Sandeel because the hook is far less exposed on a J hook. And when I'm bumping the bottom of very rough ground, look, I'm gonna lose gear. Look, obviously, I mean, I hope it goes without saying, I'm fishing with a braid main line. I think it's 17 or 20 pound. I want lack of stretch. I want as much feel as possible. I don't think this will work with mono. You need braid. There's definitely bait around. There's gannets working on bait. When we came down the hill, it looked like a real boulder field down in there. So I'm going to try and get round the back, and I'm going to use the gravity stick and fish into it. This ground just screams bass. I can always target the deeper water out long, but I like this really rough, turbulent white water in close. And just use that weedless design to really work the lure in and around all the snags. I like options, I like choices. If the gravity stick's not working, I'll put that on. You know, I love, 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 love the Slender Scoop Shad. This is the 13 centimeter size, and this fishes weedless as well. So don't go buying other hooks, because these hooks work just great in loads of other paddle tails, okay? You know, paddle tails, twitch sticks, in our pulse tails. So the Slender Scoop Shad, in the 13 centimeter size, I will use either the 4.0 or our bigger 6.0. But again, use that centering pin, go in the front center of the lure, just ease it in, and then just catch that corkscrew, okay? And the Slender Scoop Shad definitely benefits slow, okay? Just nice and easy. Just really let that corkscrew catch in the soft plastic, okay? So with this, that's the back of the lure. I want to center. I'm going to put the hook along the lure, put my thumbnail there, in through the middle, into the weedless slot, the weed guard, waving. Oh, these lure, and look at that. If this is working, I'll keep it on, obviously. If this isn't working, I'll try the gravity sticks. I just, you know, one day the bass wants that, one day the bass wants that. I don't know, I'm not a bass. Wish I could think like a bass. That's it. Repurpose our hooks for loads of other soft plastics. Look, it's not big, but that is such an angry bass. It just smashed me in this gully that you can't walk past. I mean, no bass angler can walk past. And I changed over to the Slender Scoop Shad, which, you know, so I'll show you later on. I'll show you how to do it. I'll nudge that belly weight up to the front because I think it helps the lure. But look, it's not a big fish, but just look how angry it is. Look how angry that fish is. Just flared up. Come and get me. Come and get me if you dare. This is the 13cm Slender Scoop Shad paddle tail. I love this lure. It gives me a very, very different action to the gravity stick. And you notice how on our belly weight hooks, I've nudged that 3 gram belly weight towards the front of the lure. Look, I can't prove it. I've caught loads of fish on these lures with the weight where it normally is, but I just like it on the Slender Scoop Shad when you nudge that weight towards the head. I think it does something beneficial to that action. And the problem is I tried it, you know, a couple of years ago, caught fish straight away, and then it kind of sticks with you. I love it like that. There's definitely some bait around. This is another totally different mark. It's a massive reef system, and we've got gannets diving on bait not very far out, so there's food around. But we've got this very strong wind wrapping around the headland, so this kind of mark, it screams soft plastic to me, you know, weedless Slender Scoop Shads, weedless gravity sticks. When I first started really getting into lure fishing for bass, there were great big swathes of this mark that we couldn't fish because we were fishing with hard lures, you know, festooned with treble hooks. And if you chuck those lures into very shallow, very rough, very bouldery, weedy ground, you're going to lose the lures. I knew nothing about the whole weedless soft plastics thing. Okay, so we throw this word around like confetti. You know, the word weedless, all right? What does weedless imply? Oh, I'm not going to catch any weed on my lure or my hooks. Now, it doesn't mean that, okay? You know, if you've got suspended, broken bits of weed in the water, you're going to catch them. What that weedless word implies in my head, in my mind, is I'm not going to snag all the time. I'm not going to catch weed. I'm not going to catch, you know, bladderwrack. I'm not going to catch boulders. Firstly, I like a single hook far more than a treble. You see how that hook point is basically buried away So look, I can run my hand over like that, okay? And then the whole way these are designed is really clever. When the fish hits, it slams that lure out the way and exposes the hook point. Now these gravity sticks, they're heavy. They've got a lot of salt in them, specifically so you can cast them really well. You can very happily fish this lure without a belly weight, especially in calm conditions, but slow down. That belly weight gives you stability. In choppier conditions, you've got to hold that lure really true, and if you really slow down, obviously you can fish it deeper. But I like these lures with and without belly weights. You know, I will chop and change today. But that belly weight also really sets you in the cast. It's such a simple setup, but that paddle tail and that hook combination, I can do almost everything. Like I said, there's no ground I will not throw that through, because you know as well as I do, bass love evil ground. And I don't want to come to a spot like this and not cover the whole lot. I want to chuck a lure like this into everything. Look, you're going to snag the odd lure. That's fishing in rough ground. But I promise you, go and chuck a shallow diving hard lure festooned with 2 or 3 sets of trebles here, you're going to lose lures, and they're not cheap. I mean, I love them, but they're not cheap. That thing keeps me fishing. Lets me cover all the ground. I told you about belly weight, no belly weight with these gravity sticks. This ground is stripping out. It's getting really shallow, which is perfect. Shallower the better, rough as hell. So I'm going to take the belly weight hook off and I'm going to change it. Same lure. I'm going to change it for that 6.0 weedless hook without the belly weight. I call that rigging it naked. I don't know what the actual technical term is. Because I'm slowing down, you know, my biggest weakness when I'm fishing is speed. I get excited and I start cranking lures. This, I got to slow down to keep him subsurface, keep the lure subsurface. And because I slowed right down, that lure definitely washes in the little back currents, little eddies. It definitely washes that little bit more in behind the rocks. So again, in my head, I'm covering a bit more ground more effectively. Just slow down, boom. Oh, yo. As with most kinds of fishing, you can get as complicated as you want, or you can keep it as simple as you want. Soft plastics is encyclopedia-like, and make no mistake, I am learning every single day about fishing, and especially about soft plastics. I use them all the time for bass fishing. I distill it into 2 kind of distinct families, I guess, okay? Number 1, rigging based around your weedless hook. Then you have your jig head. You have a weighted jig head at the front of the soft plastic. And then you often have a J hook, as in your proud exposed hook, or you sometimes have a weedless design, like on our weedless sand eels. I would never ever go bass fishing without soft plastics because of the versatility. I can do so much with those kind of 2 families. If you think about the ground, the conditions, the current, the terrain, the type of lure, the type of rigging, think about those 2 families and you can cover, I reckon, virtually all your bass fishing. We've got a slightly different situation here. We've got this kind of, I guess, massive ancient cliff fall. We've got loads of boulders, but it looks like they kind of stop in good bit of sand, okay? So any bass generally going to be right at the base of these rocks. And that's where your weedless soft plastic, i.e. your soft plastic without a jig head, your weedless soft plastic, it's lighter, more maneuverable. I can hold it for longer in where I think the kill zone is. I love it when those waves recede. I've had some really nice fish at home, like using that that undertow as such, and that wave breaks, and then don't just rip your, if you're fishing a beach like that, like a dumpy beach, okay? Don't rip your lure out. If that wave is breaking on the beach, let your lure hold in that backwash and that undertow. Because again, 1, 2, 3 seconds more fishing, I've had some cracking fish doing that when your head says, I'll cast again. But if by chance you've timed it right, you've got that grip in the undertow, your lure is fishing for you. You haven't got to retrieve it, the current's fishing your lure for you. If you've never used these gravity sticks before, I want to show you how easy they are to rig and obviously how easy they are to fish with. So I'm going to show you hook, I'm going to show you lure, I'm going to show you how to put them together, and I promise you it's really, really simple. So the whole gravity stick system, whatever you want to call it, is based around a weedless hook with or without belly weight, a corkscrew, I'll explain why, and the lure. So I've got the smaller 120 size gravity stick paddle tail here. I've got the 4.0 belly weight weedless hook that goes with it. We take that corkscrew, it's got what's called a centering pin. Basically, you take that pin and you put it into the front middle of the gravity sticks. So you just turn it right up to the eye of the hook, and you want the top of the lure, it's got a weedless slot there and a little weed guard, okay? Now, usually, okay, you're gonna have to measure where that hook is on the body of the lure. We deliberately put a hole in the lure for you to make it simple, make it really simple again. So I take the point of the weedless hook, go in through that hole, out into the weedless slot, that's it. That, I hope, is as simple as I promise you it would be. We've come to a brand new spot to tuck away from, it doesn't look like it, but there is a brutal, brutal southwest wind out there. And so we come to get it off our backs. And this spot, it's a lot deeper than I thought it would be. I mean, obviously I don't know it, but I talked about searching the water column. So I'm starting off with the V2 weedless sandeel, the smaller one. Jig heads can be way, way more versatile than they look. You think, oh, they've got to drop down. Of course they're going to drop down if you let them. But the lighter ones especially this design, if you kind of call it a whack and crank, whack it, crank it back, it's surprisingly shallow. And then I'll start working back through the column again. If the sandeels are up in the water, you've got to hope those bass are chasing. And I'm going to use the fact the wind's off my back and the lure casts well, I'm going to search a bit of water. So you basically cast, tight line, and just let that lure drop. This technique seems to be really quite controllable. Tap in the wind, 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 wind. So the lure's coming up, tap, and it's dropping. Again, a good way of covering a lot of water. Try that, what I call it, it's called a sink and draw, but I kind of feel like you're setting the lure on the upstroke, then you're going down with it on, just kind of keep that line fairly tight because that lure is now fishing on the drop. I think you almost kind of set the lure on the up, fish gets interested, lure drops, bang, and invariably when you're fishing like this, sink and draw, pollock especially and bass will hit you on the drop. It's a really good way to search a lot of water. I just put my first cast across a point there, and look, this ground is rough as hell. We come to find a bit of wind in our face, but I got one of those, boom, like that. Could be a rock, but it went boom, like a fish. And I wound in, look, that's fish. Hope it's bass, could be pollock obviously. I really, really want to fish the gravity stick in these kind of conditions. But you see all that really bouncy white water, I really like that for bass. So I'm going to put the V2 weedless sandeel on, jig head, just to give me that punch into the wind. Then I'll probably have to hold my rod quite high to bring him up shallow. But look at it, I love that fizzy white water. Honestly, you couldn't make this up. I said to Nigel, he's the local lad, but he's helping us out. And I said, look, I'm gonna move. I got smacked off the front of that rock earlier. I showed you that lure folded over. I said, we're gonna go up the coast, look for a little beach up there. He said, oh yeah, I'm gonna stay here. I'll follow you over. He yells at us before we got up the slope, bang, first chuck here, he's got a bass on. It's not big, but it's a bass. Look, this is very, very, very much not my bass. I wondered when he said, oh, I'll follow you. I thought, oh, okay. Just go, and I swear he yelled, I'm in, I'm in, I'm in. And that was it. Nothing to do with me, but I'll take a little. 15, 17.5. Well done. Look, I know it's like a scratch record. I know I keep banging on about paddle tails. Look, you're doing Sandeel, pencil, surface lures, whatever. They're all gonna work. But that paddle tail gives me that action in the water, and also you've got to fancy there's a high chance if there are bass here, they'll be in behind these small waves. And I told you earlier about the paddle tails, you can almost get those 1, 2, 3 extra seconds when you can hold. You can just get that little bit of backwash and an extra bit of fishing time, and if that fish is in behind that wave, bang. Whereas if you're cranking, say, look, I love the Sandeel pencils, it's a killer lure. But you tend to need to crank it shallow ground because it's going to sink fast. Crank it, swim shallow, brilliant. But you can't kind of hold it. You can't hold it in the waves and stuff. This is our last gasp up in North Wales. But the fishing's been tough. The ground up here is sensational. You can see why it fishes well when it does, because everywhere screams bass. But this is our last kind of gasp chance, tuck out of the wind. This massive beach. We're going to wander up and down. I've got the gravity stick paddle tail on. And the theory is, look, there's bass along this beach somewhere at some time, so we've got to try and find them. Look, if you've been watching this, firstly, thank you very much. Secondly, you can see the fishing's been tough, eh? But to get this chance, this is my job, this is my work, to get this chance to come and fish and visit this part of North Wales, I mean, it is, I live in Cornwall. Cornwall's breathtaking. It is breathtaking up here. We've probably fished half of 1% of the areas you can fish. And when it fires up here, it's epic. But it's a beach, they could be anywhere, the bass. Just keep going, keep moving, keep fishing. That fish hit me so close in. I've got to be honest, I wasn't really concentrating. I've got the really light rod, I'm playing around with it. Gravity stick paddle tail. I've sort of somewhat disparagingly said to Barney, who's doing the camera work, oh, there's a couple of mullet close in. They ain't mullet, they're bass. You know those two words, last gasp? I cannot tell you, literally, we were within 5 minutes of walking off this beach. Because we've got stuff to do, we've got to pack, we've got to get home. And this thing, look at the paddle tail inside that cotton candy, killer. This thing, I reckon it hit me 10 yards out, absolutely slammed it, engulfed it, nailed it. On this really light rod as well, it's an epic little scrap. I reckon that fish hit well, 2 foot of water, absolute last gasp, North Wales bass. Go on, baby. Oh. Sometimes, just occasionally, the fishing gods, they cut you some slack. That was cut some slack. That was the fishing gods being nice to us. Just the perfect end. Thank you very much, fishing.